Why does it always feel like we've seen many of the pop stars we love today in the past? Like when a new artist breaks out and folks online immediately go, oh, she's giving early Britney, or he's the next MJ, or that's the new Rihanna. And 9 times out of 10, they're kind of right. Because over the decades, I noticed pop music has recycled the same 10 core pop star archetypes again and again. Each new generation adds new flavor, new context, new fashion, but the archetypes, they stay the same. Why is that? Hey friends, I'm Ana The Marketeer, your friendly neighborhood marketing bestie. I decode the marketing and branding strategies running pop culture so you can build something aligned, magnetic, and successful. In today's video, we're breaking down the 10 archetypes of pop stars, from the Showstopper to the Underdog, the Baddie to the Era Shifter. These roles are more than just vibes. They're full-blown brand strategies. So if you're a creator, musician, brand builder, or just pop culture obsessed like me, you're gonna love this. But first, most of you watching my videos aren't subscribed to my channel. If you've been liking my videos, hit subscribe right now to support the channel and get weekly breakdowns just like this. And if you join my newsletter, Marketer's Memo, you'll get a free download of my authentic branding checklist that will give you immediate tips to elevate your current branding while being yourself. Link is in the description. Also, you can now listen to these episodes on Spotify as well. That link is also in the description. All right, let's get into it. Why archetypes matter. Pop archetypes are brand shortcuts. They're what makes us instantly get a new artist before they even drop an album. It's the shorthand of culture. You can clock the aesthetic, the sound, the personality type, and boom, you know who they're speaking to. Now, let me be very clear here. Archetypes aren't boxes, they're launch pads. Some artists stay in one lane forever. Like, for example, Whitney Houston will always be in the vocalist category, while others evolve, mutate, or blend multiple archetypes over time. Miley Cyrus is a great example of this. She debuted as a girl next door, transitioned to a baddie, dipped into chameleon, and is now giving songwriter with a splash of performer. We'll get into what all these different titles means in a moment. But even when they evolve, they start with a clear lane. It's what makes them instantly memorable. It's why fans know what to expect from them and what to feel when they show up. And guess what? If you're building a personal brand, you can do the same. You don't have to be original to be iconic. The best stars of today were influenced by the best stars of yesterday. You just have to be intentional, aligned, and authentic. Understanding these archetypes gives you a language to articulate your brand before your work even fully unfolds, even as you're still figuring it out. And shameless plug here, check out my video about how to build your brand as you're still figuring it out. I'll put it in the top corner or in the description, and I think it's a great next step for this video. These archetypes will help you clarify your message, aesthetics, energy, and audience from day one, and you can build your own brand based off of who inspires you. The 10 archetypes of pop stars. So now that we know why pop star archetypes matter, let's break them down one by one. These 10 archetypes, in my opinion, are the building blocks of pop stardom in every era. You've seen them, you've loved them, you've probably debated them, and you'll probably fight me in the comments on them. Don't worry, I'm ready for it. But each of these represents a full-on brand blueprint, a vibe, a message, an audience, a certain way of showing up. For each archetype, I'll break down what it means, what kind of branding supports it, and give you some decade by decade receipts from the 80s to today to show you how, even as time goes on, the branding remains the same. So let's get into the lineup. The first archetype we're going to talk about is the performer, aka the showstopper. The performer dominates the stage. Their brand is built on unforgettable live shows, technical excellence, and choreographed precision. They don't just sing, they command. Branding-wise, visually, this archetype leans toward high glam, athletic silhouettes, and a commanding presence. Think stadium visuals, backup dancers, and precision lighting. The branding is about scale, excellence, and visual dominance. So we're going to dive into some examples, and these, as a disclaimer, because I know y'all will come for me in the comments, these are my opinions on who stands out for me as the archetype within that specific era. So obviously there's going to be others that will fit that archetype, but these are the ones that stand out for me. Like when I think 80s for this one, for the performer, Michael Jackson, 100%. The moonwalk, the glove, the Super Bowl halftime show, MJ made every performance a cultural moment. Honorable mention here, Paula Abdul. She was the queen of the choreo and worked with like a lot of our favorites to choreograph their videos, their live performances. 90s, Janet Jackson, carrying the reign from her brother, iconic choreography, Rhythm Nation visuals, and I believe Paula was actually her choreographer as well for some of these performances and some of her more iconic choreographies. And she had that stage presence that was both fierce and graceful. For the 2000s, this one was a little bit difficult, not gonna lie, because there's no one who stood out to me completely, but I would say maybe Usher. Like he really had a pop-off era in the 2000s with Confessions era, and he really brought like smooth moves and charisma. But I also was thinking of Sierra. She had like that athletic dance, fashion, futuristic visuals, and maybe some honorable mention to Chris Brown. But I would say for 2010s, definitely Beyonce. The thing with Beyonce is she kind of falls into 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s because she's arguably the definition of performer for the modern era. Coachella, Super Bowl, On the Run tours, flawless cinematic execution. For 2020s, I obviously would give it to Beyonce, but I would say Doja Cat would be the performer of the 2020s. Her VMA performances, her Coachella performances prove she's just not simply a pop star. She's a performance artist. She puts creativity into it. I would give some honorable mentions to Chaperone and Doechii here, but both are rising and they have like these theatrical and immersive stage personas, but they're kind of early in their careers for me to 100% be on board with them getting the title just yet. To the vocalist, aka The Voice. The vocalist brand is their raw talent. They can silence a room with a single note. Their strength lies in purity, technique, and emotional range. Branding-wise, it's usually minimal styling or stripped-back visuals are very common for the vocalists because the voice does the heavy lifting. Their branding is about timeless talent and authenticity. 80s, of course, Whitney Houston, the voice of a generation. I Will Always Love You is still unmatched, still a banger. She's still iconic to this day. 90s vocalists I would give to Mariah Carey. Her whistle tone, the runs, her songwriting just sealed her into this icon status in this era. 2000s, Christina Aguilera. Beautiful, Ain't No Other Man. She showcased powerhouse vocals and control through and through. 2010s, Adele. That emotional vulnerability, the classic ballads, the arena-filling voice made her a global brand. 2020s, this was a little bit difficult. Again, I think Adele comes into the 2020s, but if I had to give it to anyone, it would have to be Ariana Grande. She's a pop princess with those R&B chops, that vocal agility that we love and obsess over. And Wicked definitely showed us, and I think solidified she definitely is the voice for the 2020s. 3, the provocateur, aka the instigator. The provocateur disrupts the norm. They make you look twice and then talk about it. Their branding usually includes some bold colors, controversial lyrics, performance art, or trolling as performance. This archetype thrives on attention and reaction. 80s, of course, Madonna. That Catholic iconography, boundary pushing fashion, and the sexual empowerment. She really laid the foundation for a lot of artists that came after her. 90s, this might be a little surprising, but I would give it to Marilyn Manson. He really carried on the satanic panic from the 80s onwards, and he brought this like really interesting vibe that no one really was doing at the time or since, bringing like this gothic horror meets mainstream rebellion. It was very unsettling, but also super fascinating. 2000s, gotta give it to Lady Gaga herself. The meat dress, the paparazzi, the amaze, her entire early career was shock wrapped in talent, but she didn't really peak until like the mid 2000s. So I have to give an honorable mention to Pink. In this era, she was definitely very provocative in her early career. She leaned into punk femininity and these anti-pop stances, basically being like the anti-Britney, anti-Christina of this era. 2010s, Kanye West, of course. From Taylor Swift interruptions to Yeezus visuals, his brand thrived on volatility in this era. And he went from being just a rapper to a pop star in the 2010s. 2020s, I would give it to Doja Cat and Lil Nas X. The internet chaos, the meme mastery, and the visuals that spark conversations. I think both of them do that really well. The only thing is Lil Nas X, he's kind of faltering here. He needs to do something to get back into the public's care, to be honest. And I think for him, maybe it's changing into a different archetype might work well for the next step of his career. For the girl or boy next door, aka the sweetheart, they're lovable, familiar, and feel like your childhood best friend. Their branding usually includes soft palettes, youthful styling, diary-like lyrics, innocence, even when it's curated. Some examples: 80s George Michael. His image with Wham was clean-cut, charming, and friendly. Honorable mention from the 80s, Debbie Gibson. She was a teen pop sweetheart with big chart presence. 90s, of course, our girl Britney Spears. Baby One More Time solidified her as the quintessential teen idol. 2000s, Hilary Duff. Disney darling turned approachable pop singer. And I would say she's an example of someone who kind of stayed in this lane. She's still got this girl next door persona. 2010s, of course, early Justin Bieber. He definitely was a boy next door. And I'd actually give it to Selena Gomez too in this era. She was marketed as wholesome. Both of them were lovable stars, but the real life drama is what kept us watching, truly. And I'd even put early Miley Cyrus, a lot of those Disney people, into this 2010s era, but those two I think stood out the most, and because they ended up dating, it also brought more attention to their careers. 2020s, I would give it to Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo. Sabrina is flirty and playful, while Olivia is more emotionally raw, but both feel like our besties in different ways. 5, the Heartbreaker, aka the Cool Lover. They're sexy, stylish, and slightly out of reach. It's all about allure and mystique with them. They usually bring, branding-wise, warm tones, sultry fashion, moody visuals, and minimal interviews. A little bit mysterious people. So some examples: 80s Prince, gender-fluid fashion, erotic lyrics, and some mystery. 90s, I'd give it to Aaliyah. She was the definition of the cool girl at the time, and she had those soft vocals, but matched with this tomboy glam vibe. 2000s, Rihanna. Bad girl energy, killer fashion, and that don't care attitude. Definitely was that heartbreaker. 2010s, I would give it to The Weeknd. That darkness, the hedonism, and the detached romanticism, very reflective. 2020s, I think the closest we have maybe is Kelly Uchis. I think she might be the closest we have here. She has dreamy visuals, smooth vocals, and magnetic sensuality. So I think she is kind of carrying the torch for this heartbreaker persona. Next, number 6, the Visionary, aka the Art Kid. They don't follow trends, they create them. Their work is immersive and conceptual. Branding for them is usually avant-garde fashion, high art visuals, genre blending, and conceptual rollouts. So in the 80s, Kate Bush would definitely fall into this category. She's theatrical, poetic, and emotionally layered music. For the 90s, Bjork, experimental sounds, alien fashion, and genre-defying artistry. The 2000s, I would give it to Missy Elliott. She had futuristic visuals, iconic music videos, and bold style. Honorable mentions for the 2000s, MIA. She had a lot of political messaging, genre fusion, and chaotic beauty, and her albums were honestly really, really good, and I think she was definitely an underrated artist at that time, and kind of still is now. 2010s, Frank Ocean definitely is that our art kid. Mysterious, minimal rollout, and deeply intimate soundscapes. He used Tumblr a lot, as most art kids did in the 2010s, so he definitely falls into that category for us here. And 2020s, this one is a little difficult. I would say the main person I would put into this is FKA Twigs. She does this cool mixture of movement and visual art with her music. And Billie Eilish, I think, would go into here too. When she launched, her look was very different than we've ever seen a pop star before, and very changed the game and shifted the sound of pop music at the time. Very visionary. Honorable mention here, I would say is Rosalia from Spain. She's a Spanish artist. She does like flamenco futurism and genre bending global fusions that are really beautiful and really cool. I definitely suggest checking her out if you've never heard of her before. 7, The Chameleon, aka The Era Shifter. They reinvent constantly. Every album is a new identity. The branding for The Chameleon is usually era-based visuals, fresh aesthetics, and narrative rollouts. 80s, David Bowie, of course. Ziggy Stardust alone changed everything. 90s, I would say Madonna. Of course, she did some 80s moving into the 90s. The cone bras, spiritual vibes when she got into Kabbalahism, and she was constantly changing and still is to this day. She changes constantly. 2000s, I would say Gwen Stefani. She went from the ska of the 90s to this solo glam pop in the 2000s that was very iconic for that era. And each phase was distinct, and she still made some songs with no doubt in this time too. 2010s, I would give it to Taylor Swift. She went from country to synth pop to indie folk, and all the branding came with it. For the 2020s, I would still say Taylor Swift is the main person who does that, but I would also like to give an honorable mention to Miley Cyrus. Rock, disco, country, and back again, all with new haircuts and moods every time. She definitely has become really good at mastering eras. 8, the songwriter, aka the pen. Their lyrics are the core, and they are really good at turning vulnerability into virality. The branding for them is usually handwritten lyrics, stripped visuals, metaphors, diary core, as I'll call it. Some examples, for me, when I think of the 80s, I think of Elton John, because he's had really beautiful, strong lyrics, and he wrote most of the songs or with him and his writing partner, and he had iconic melodies and paired it with very deep storytelling. For the 90s, I would say Alanis Morissette, definitely hands down. You Ought to Know is still one of the most raw pop songs ever. And her album, Jagged Little Pill, like, she did her big one on that album. Like, that album is so good, so amazing, filled with beautiful, raw writing. 2000s, Amy Winehouse, hands down. Heartbreak, jazzy, deeply personal. Back to Black, one of my favorite albums of all time, personally speaking. Such a beautiful album with amazing storytelling all throughout. 2010s, I gotta give it back to my girl Taylor Swift. From teen heartbreak to folklore storytelling, she always has been an amazing songwriter from her breakout to now. Honorable mention, Lana Del Rey. I think her melancholy glamour, the Americana fantasy, stylized longing, it's very much great storytelling. 2020s, I would give it to SZA. She has this modern day diary entries turned into soul R&B masterpieces, and she just always puts out a good album. From the first song to the last song, always beautifully well done with amazing writing that's so raw and so personal. Number 9, the Baddie. Feminine power in its most magnetic form. Sex appeal, confidence, and fire. The branding for the Baddie includes heels, curves, bold makeup, luxury, but also a little bit of grit. The 80s example of the Baddie, I would say Miss Tina Turner herself. Fierce vocals, leather minis, and survivor strength, especially considering she was in her 40s in this era. Like, she broke the mold of so many toxic ideals of older women and what older women can do when she came out with this era in the 80s. The 90s, I would say Lil' Kim, Foxy Brown would be the baddies. They had provocative visuals, provocative lyrics, and this very much in-your-face feminine rage. It was both like aggressive but also feminine. 2000s, this one was a little bit difficult for me, not gonna lie. I would say Eve and Trina. Nicki Minaj kind of came near the end of the 2000s, so I'd say Eve and Trina. They were versatile rappers with this street smart glam and edge, and definitely iconic people for that era. 2010s, this is where I definitely put Nicki Minaj, because this is where she fully owned this era. This is the Barbie meets assassin vibes she was bringing. It was bold, theatrical, and very much in control. 2020s, I would give it to a little bit of Cardi B and a lot of Meg Thee Stallion right now. They both have this like humor to them, the twerking, the lyrical bravado. Like they both are pretty strong candidates, but I feel like Meg is kind of stronger right now. And we have to wait for the rest of the era to finish. We still have 5 years left in 2020s to really figure out who reigns supreme. That's why doing the 2020s are so hard, because we're still in the middle of them. But as of right now, I think I would give it to Meg Thee Stallion. Last but not least, the Underdog, aka the sleeper hit. These artists weren't expected to win, but they did, and people feel it. Their branding is very authentic. Perseverance is a big part of it, and they have these very relatable glow up arcs. Some examples: 80s makes me think Pat Benatar, underrated rock vocals and one of the earliest women to front that sound. The 90s, I think of Brandy. She was an R&B sweetheart who quietly racked up major success and influence and stays underrated to this day. For the 2000s, I would give it to Kesha. When she initially came out, she had this very, Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie type of makeup look to her with like the glitter and vibes and the lightning bolts, which also Lady Gaga had around the same time when she came out. But since then, she very much brushed off that party pop persona and invited people to listen to her deeper and opened up in a very different way. 2010s, I'd give it to Lizzo because she did not pop off with her debut album. She actually popped off with her third studio album. Like that really shows how much grinding before the glow she really did. And she was all about positivity, body positivity, flute solos, twerking, just good, fun, authentic vibes, at least for that time. Debatable how you feel about her now. For the 2020s, as of today, I would give it to Doechii. She's still on the rise, but she definitely has creative flair. She has the bars, she has originality to become a force in this era if she continues on the momentum and really figures out how she wants to brand herself, I think. So of course, there's definitely a few more bonus archetypes that probably could be broken down into more, like the dancers, which is where I would really put like a Paula Abdul or Sierra, maybe even a J-Lo, as these are people who are more known for their dance excellence than their vocals. Or the vibe archetype, which would be like a Sade, a Billie, maybe even a Lana Del Rey, where they just have this energy persona about them that draws you in. So there's definitely a few that could be put in here, but I think some of those also fit into these 10 core archetypes as well. So let me know in the comments, do you agree with my take, or are there any other archetypes that come to mind for you? These archetypes work because they tap into something primal, something recognizable. They make your brand feel like a character in a story we've always known, but still uniquely you. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to know what wheel you're driving. So here are 3 big branding takeaways. Number 1, your archetype is your anchor. When you're not sure what to post, how to show up, or what your audience expects, go back to your archetype. Are you the performer always elevating production, or the songwriter who thrives on emotional storytelling? Start there and build. 2, you can evolve, but start with clarity. Just like artists reinvent between albums, your brand can grow. But don't try to be everything at once. Pick a lane, build momentum, then branch out. As we explored a lot of these people on the list, they started in one archetype, but as their career progressed, they've moved into others. And you could do that too. Just start with clarity. 3, don't chase trends. Chase resonance. The reason these archetypes persist is because they connect. They're not gimmicks. They're strategies rooted in emotional truth. Your brand should make people feel something real. So, what pop archetype are you in right now? Drop it in the comments and don't overthink it. Go with your gut, or take 2 if you think you're in transition. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch my Branding Basics playlist for more content like this. Join the Marketeers Member newsletter to get weekly strategies in your inbox and catch the audio version of this episode on Spotify. If you like this video or any of my other ones, you can buy me a coffee in the description below. And remember, your brand doesn't have to be loud, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be rooted. Until next time, Marketeers, stay grounded, stay iconic, and stay real.